Well, good morning, everybody. I am here today to do topic 10.6. Yes, told you I've been having fun with the filters. I am here with Simba. My hand is not there. Simba and Nala. There's Rafiki, Timon, and Pumbaa. Yeah, and I've now joined the lion pack. And we're going to talk to you today about 10.6. And that is, hold on, let me get it shared here for you. Changing economies. That is a picture right there, actually, of Singapore. And we've talked about how Singapore has some of the most vibrant and freest markets in the world. Singapore also has good schools too, y'all. It really do. I studied that in my doctoral studies. Privatization, we've talked about this one before. This is the process of selling businesses or services operated by the government to individual investors. And some countries, especially countries that have fallen from communism, have done that. We talked about how England's done it, France has done it. We've talked about special economic zones before. Actually, we were talking about them in Singapore, how there are certain regions that operate under a different economic law in order to attract foreign investors and promote exports. I should keep my hair down so I have a big line name. Put it back from my ears and it didn't look good. So how do we move towards a market economy? Most people don't like change. Some people embrace it really well. Some people don't. I think the older you get, the less you like change. So what if all of a sudden you couldn't go to high school unless you paid tuition? The government might say, well, your property taxes are less, but now you got to pay for which school your child has to go to. Well, you're assigned to our school because of where you live. But if you're now paying to go to school, it's kind of like private school. Wouldn't you be picking which school was best for you, not just the one you're assigned to? You might decide you want to go to Hendersonville or Station Camp or Gallatin because of programs they have that maybe Beach doesn't, or sports teams. Who knows? Now let's talk about Shanghai. Actually, I said it was Singapore. Sorry, it was Shanghai. This is an example of China's rapid economic growth. China has been dabbling in more free market aspects. They've allowed, Coca-Cola over there. They've allowed McDonald's franchises to be established. And so there's a free trade zone in Shanghai that allows foreign competition. Now, how does a country privatize assets? Here's one. And these are actual real examples that have happened. Poland privatized retail shops and small industrial businesses in the early as 1990. Now, that was only 30 years ago. These were businesses owned by the government that were for profit. We don't have that here in the United States. And then the government said, nah, we're going to sell them and let somebody else take them over. The United Kingdom, Great Britain, has state-owned businesses that make profits. And they sold the shares of many of these in the 80s. And so then, if it's still, a government business and you got investors in it, now you've got investors in their country. Czechoslovakia, citizens were purchasing privatization vouchers. And that's basically like bidding for a share in the state-owned businesses. Like, we do not have state-owned businesses that make a profit. Other countries do. Now, Russia has faced some of the toughest challenges that we've been talking about. It was once part of the USSR, the Soviet Union, and it was the world's most powerful communist nation. Most people would probably say now China or maybe North Korea, but we don't know much about it. But in 1991, Soviet communism and actually the Soviet Union collapsed. And so then you had Russia and some of the other former Soviet republics like the Ukraine that had to begin the difficult transition towards a free market economy. Now, think about it. If you're somebody that has been dependent on the government, and the government has provided food, clothing, and shelter, and all of a sudden you're cut off and told you got to find a way to do it yourself, you're probably going to be lost. Just the same as we would be, in a country that was communist going on. This isn't the way things should be because of the way we've grown up. You would probably be lost because you're not used to having to go find that stuff. Kind of like an animal, when you tame it, they can no longer go back out in the wild. So that was a very, very hard transition for Russians. I know my brother-in-law actually worked over in Russia during that time. And he said, at one point they couldn't pay any of their employees in the ruble. That was the Russian money. They all wanted US dollars because they were worried that, like we've talked about with Confederate money, that they wake up one day and the government backing it is gone and it's just paper. So they're like, no, we want American money because we know the American government is still going to be around. This is Mikhail Gorbachev, who was the president of the Soviet Union when it was communist. And he's here with President Ronald Reagan. If you look back in the 80s, we had what's called the Cold War between us and the USSR. So here were the two heads of the countries talking. Here you've got the former republics of the Soviet Union. So you've got all these over here: Ukraine, Belarus. We've talked a little bit about, Belarus. They're trying to migrate. I think it's Poland's right there. You got Lithuania, Moldova, Ukraine. I hear about a lot. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. I don't know that one. Turkmenistan. I don't know. Kyrgyzstan. I know that one. Oops, let me go back. I know Kyrgyzstan, Georgia, Armenia. I think that's Azerbaijan. Not quite sure, but all of these used to at one time be the Soviet Union. If we look at Russian oil production from 2002 to 2011, remember the Soviet Union fell in 1991. So if you look here, you can see Russia's peak oil production is in 2011. Now, the years that saw the steepest rise was from 2002 to 2004, shortly after, about 10 years after communism fell. Now, Asia, we know, is the world's largest continent, and it's home to about 4 billion people. China and India are both in the Asian continent, and they are two of the most populated countries. Asia actually has 60% of the world's total population. And so this is a huge workforce. They've got huge markets for goods and services. And in recent decades, Asia has become one of the biggest players on the world economy. You've got Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan. They have become very, very, very highly developed. And again, Singapore has some of the freest markets and really good education system. Now, if we look about growth in Asia, you can see here China. I mean, we all kind of make fun of, but it's true about how everything's made in China because you can get stuff cheap there. And if you look in 1998, China was exporting a little bit more than they imported. But now, fast forward to 2013, they are exporting a whole lot more than they're importing. They don't need as much from the rest of the world, but the rest of the world needs more from them. Here, this is Shenzhen, just north of Hong Kong in China. They have a special economic zone. And you can see this is the former Communist Party leader. And he was encouraging factories, foreign factories actually, to open up there. Now, Asia, we've talked about, has some poor countries, but Africa and Latin America have a lot as well. Some nations in these two regions have seen some really strong economic growth, but there's other countries that really are still struggling. Africa tends to have a lot of areas that have extreme poverty. And it's really kind of sad. There's a lot. I always hear of Kenya. And again, Kenya is the home. Kibera, Kenya has the largest slum in the world. But if you go down to Johannesburg, South Africa, this is one of the largest cities on the entire continent of Africa. And I mean, look at it. That looks like New York or San Francisco or LA. It just looks bustling, lots of life. So it's considered to be the Sub-Saharan African Business Center, but it's also very well known for shopping and museums. If we look in South America, Brazil, you can see here their exports. They're exporting a lot of iron ore, petroleum, sugarcane, soybeans. I would have thought coffee would have been up there more because, finest coffee comes from South America. And that is going to be the end of 10.6. So I hope all of you had a really good time, and say bye, Simba, bye, Nala, Rafiki, Timon, and Pumbaa. Until next time, see you later.